it's Karen from Black Swan Journals, and I thought I would share how I made this little journal envelope with a tab or hinge binding. And I made it for a friend who's a lovely lady and a giver, and I thought she should receive. So I thought I'd share with you how I made the body, how I made the envelopes, and then how I put together the journal with the tabs. So I took a piece of paper, regular, just kind of like copy weight paper, and I cut it 9 inches square. And you could probably cut it pretty much any square. And here are 3. I'm using 4 total. That's what I used to make that journal. And here are 3 already folded, but we're going to fold the 4th one together. So I just wanted to give you a visual ahead of time as to what you're going for. So I'll glue these down later. And for now, we'll make this one, and I'll show you my process and how I glue it and how we put the tab binding on all 4 pages, all 4 envelopes. And what's cool about the envelope is it creates so many pockets and not just pages, so it's really kind of fun. So basically, I just fold in the sides and turn the paper around and just keep looking at it visually until I'm happy with the lines and I feel that they're straight. And I didn't feel those were quite straight, so you can see me adjusting the lower left corner here and a little bit on the right as well. And then I keep checking until I feel that it's straight. And the reason why I try to make it straight is when you go to close your flaps and glue them, if it's wonky, the whole thing becomes wonky and really misshapen and a little bit harder to use. Although I do appreciate the abstract of it, but for me, it's a little bit easier to work in it and use it when it's less abstract and straighter. So when you fold up the bottom, just make sure that you fold it up enough that when you glue it down, you have enough paper on both sides. The center triangles and the bottom triangle have enough space to meet each other to be glued shut. And I'll show you that process coming up. And the top, the same thing. I fold it down and just make sure I turn it back around because I want to peek and make sure I'm giving it enough paper so that it can be glued down. And if you ever fold it and then you go to glue it and you find that you didn't have enough, it's okay. Just unbend it and fold it down a little bit farther toward you, toward your body, if it's the top one. If it's the bottom one, just fold it up away from you toward, your table or whatever you're working on. And it helps if you have a bone folder, just to crease it down, make it flat. So now there's little corners here that we've created from the folding. And if you try this and do it yourself, these little corners will be very visible to you from the fold lines that you just created. And you just snip them out and remove them. You can leave them in. It just makes it a little bit more bulky and a little bit more difficult to glue. Well, not difficult, but, extra work. And it takes out the bulk, too, if you remove it. And our journals get bulky on their own somehow. Little gnomes in the night, they come in and they make our journals bulky. Ooh, they do that. So, if I can remove a little bulk, I will, because it's going to get bulky. So here you want to glue down the center triangles I mean, you want to add glue. Sorry, let me be more clear. Add glue to the center triangles on the bottom there, and then fold up your bottom triangle. And if you're not experienced with glue, be sure that you don't put too much on that it oozes out on the inside of your envelope. Um, Here I'm showing you with the bone folder, I'm checking that mine didn't ooze, and it didn't, but just to be sure, it helps to just go in with your fingers and feel if anything's wet, and it's not. So now I know I can press it down. I feel confident. So now you can glue down the whole thing and make it an envelope that's been sealed shut. And you have a lot of options, but for this one, I chose to cut the sides off with scissors, just a little sliver, and I gave it just a little bit of decoration on the edge there, some washi tape and some scrap papers and ink. And then you just take your first envelope or piece of paper and you fold it in half. And I'm just showing you there's a little pocket there. And also I'm creating a pocket on the top of the other side of the page, adding a little bit of ink just to show it off. Say, hey, there's an opening here. Put something in me. Tuck some papers in here. But I do want to mention, if you were going to make this the cover, you may want to consider that. You may not want to pocket like that on your cover. On my cover, I chose to have the envelope slitted on the side, so I had an opening as a side so that my cover could be nice and flat for decoration on the front. So now I'm just showing you that the journal it doesn't really matter what size you make, it's to your pleasure and to your liking, but just in case you're interested, this one is measuring about 5.5 by 3.25 from the 9-inch square. And then if you wanted to do a screenshot here, I wrote down the measurement of the tabs that I cut, how many there were, and I also wanted to mention for a tab binding, you need to have an even amount of pages or envelopes. So in this case, I'm doing 4. And on the first one, you want to do 3 of your tabs. And I'm using Tim Holtz fabric washi tape that I've had in my stash for a couple of years. It's really sticky and strong, but it is a gift. I'm giving it away. So I decide later on to lift it up and add some glue and press it back down just to give it some extra. So when you put the first 3 on the first page, you want to make sure that you're leaving enough room to add 2 more later. So don't put them so close together that you can't have room for some that are going to go in between. So you can see here, if you're good with visually, looking at things and analyzing, it looks like I'm going to have enough space. But you can take your tabs and lay them out to ensure that you will have enough space before you commit and press it down. So now I'm just trimming up the edges a little bit. I don't know why I'm doing this because later on they're uneven and I don't trim them. Sometimes, Anyway, so now you leave it just like that and you flip it over. And now you grab the second one. You can see we have 3 left. We're going to grab the second one and set the other 2 aside. And now we're going to put 2 tabs on the front of the second one. And they're going to kind of sandwich in between the original 3. So just make sure I use the original one to line up where I'm placing the tape on the second one. So it looks like I'm kind of taping it to the original one. I'm not. I'm just using it as a guide and kind of like a template to see if it goes in. And then I hold it down and place the second one. Yeah, and here's where the top one was really long and I just leave it. I figure you won't know, if anyone's bothered by it. I don't think this person will be anyway, but you won't really notice it. So now what you want to do is you want to fold over the original first 3 pieces of tape. You either want to give it some glue, press it down. Also, I wanted to mention you can use fabric. Fabric is a great thing to use, like scraps of fabric. It's super strong. The journal's going to open and lay flat. It's going to have a really strong binding. So now you're going to flip it over when you're done, just like you did before, and we're going to grab the next one, set the last one aside, and we're going to add 3 tabs, just like we did on the very first one. Repeat that same process here, and just use the left one as a guide and a template again to make sure they'll all line up and play together nicely and be friends. So yeah, fabric is a really great choice and it can use up your scraps as well. But it's great to do a binding like this because the journal can lay open flat every time, every page. And I also wanted to mention when you put the 2 together and turn them into one, you want to leave about 1/8 of an inch because you don't want to put it so tight and butt it up so tight that you can't open it, but you don't want to leave so much of a gap that it's all floppy. So anyhow, you're doing the same thing as you were before. You're wrapping over just the 2 here. And now I give it a little press with the bone folder, but it doesn't matter because later I lift it up and give it glue. But so now we have the last one, and you don't add any tabs at all on that one. You just put it down here, and I wanted to show you there was a top pocket there. And you just put it down, and here's a good example of where I'm saying leave about 1/8 of an inch. You can leave more, you can make it wider, and you'll have more room to bulk up the journal, and it will still lay flat. But if you don't intend on bulking it up too much, then it'll be a little floppy if it's too wide apart. And so here it is, the finished little journal, and it's ready for decoration in all kinds of pockets, in all kinds of choices, in any way you want to do it. So you have a lot of space to put in fun tags and ephemera, memorabilia, but you also have a ton of space to journal on. And if you leave the backs of your journaling tags blank like I do, then you've got extra space. Here I'm just making the edge a little bit more textile, like textury, and I cut off that little corner. Little pockets down here, another big pocket on the side here. Oh, how'd that get in there? Little washi tape, how'd that get in there? Get out of there. So there's another little top pocket there, another side pocket here. And this one's got a big giant double pocket here on the very end of the back cover. And that's it. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time. Bye.